He was a billionaire, powerful, untouchable, living in a world where money seemed to solve everything. But all the wealth in the world couldn't heal the one thing that broke him every day: his son's disability. Then, in a quiet restaurant, something unexpected happened. A black waitress, overlooked by most and dismissed by many, offered his son more than kindness. She gave him a moment of dignity, a simple dance step. But what followed shook the billionaire to his core. How could one small act expose truths his money had blinded him to? For years, Richard lived in a world that few could even imagine. He was a billionaire, a man surrounded by luxury, power, and influence. To the outside world, he had everything. But behind the polished glass walls of his mansion, his life was marked by something money could never fix. His son, Daniel, was born with a disability that left him struggling to do the simplest things other children did with ease. Richard loved him deeply, but love often turned to frustration, because nothing, no doctor, no therapy, no technology, seemed to make a difference. In public, Richard kept Daniel close, but he also kept him hidden. He hated the way strangers looked at his boy with pity or discomfort. He hated the whispers, the stares, the judgment. More than anything, he hated that he couldn't control how the world treated his son. It was on a quiet afternoon during a business trip that Richard and Daniel stopped at a small, unassuming restaurant. To Richard, it was just another stop in a busy day. But to Daniel, who noticed things his father never did, it was a place filled with life, laughter, and music. Neither of them knew that inside, a simple act by someone society often overlooked would set in motion a change Richard never expected. The restaurant was alive with the usual rhythm of clinking glasses and muffled conversations, but Richard barely noticed. He sat at the corner table, scrolling through business emails, while Daniel stared quietly at the floor. That's when she appeared. The waitress. Her name was Maya. She moved quickly, balancing trays with practiced grace, but the moment her eyes fell on Daniel, she stopped. Unlike most people, she didn't look away, didn't mask discomfort with a forced smile. She simply knelt beside him, lowering herself to his level, her face lit with genuine warmth. "Would you like to choose your drink yourself?" she asked softly, handing Daniel the menu as though he were no different from any other boy. Richard's eyes flicked up, startled. Most ignored Daniel or spoke only to him as if he couldn't understand. But Maya saw him. As the meal went on, Richard noticed something else. Other customers didn't. Their eyes lingered on Maya, not with admiration, but with judgment. Some sneered, others whispered, their glances sharp and cutting. A wealthy couple at the next table exchanged looks, clearly displeased. To them, Maya was just a black waitress who should know her place, not someone bold enough to give attention to the son of a billionaire. The tension thickened when music began to play from the corner speakers. Daniel's face brightened. He loved music, though he rarely expressed it. Maya noticed. She placed the tray down, extended her hand, and asked if he wanted to try a dance step. Richard froze. His son couldn't dance, at least not in the way people expected. Daniel's movements were clumsy, unpredictable, but Maya didn't hesitate. She took his hand gently, letting him lead, her steps matching his uneven rhythm. Gasps rose from a nearby table. Someone laughed under their breath. Another muttered, "Unbelievable." Richard's chest tightened as shame and anger collided. He felt every stare, every whisper, not just toward his son, but toward Maya as well. The unspoken words were loud enough. How dare a black waitress touch the hand of a billionaire's boy? And yet, as Daniel stumbled forward, his smile widening with each awkward step, Richard saw something he hadn't in years, pure joy radiating from his son's face. Maya wasn't mocking him, wasn't pitying him. She was letting him lead, letting him shine, even if just for a fleeting moment. But the whispers grew sharper. The wealthy couple called over another waiter, demanding that Maya behave more appropriately. Across the room, others shook their heads, their expressions drenched in disapproval. The walls seemed to close in on Richard. His instincts screamed to protect his reputation, to end the scene before it spiraled further, and yet he couldn't move. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't seeing his son through the eyes of the world. He was seeing him through Maya's eyes. The question clawed at him, louder than the whispers, louder than the music. Was he about to silence the only person who had ever truly seen Daniel? The room erupted. Chairs scraped against the floor as the wealthy couple stood, their voices sharp and dripping with disdain. "This is unacceptable," one of them snapped, pointing at Maya. "She's making a mockery of this place and of him." Others chimed in, their words a blur of disgust. "Embarrassing. Doesn't belong here. Out of line." The music that once filled the room now felt suffocating, drowned out by judgment. Maya didn't flinch. She held Daniel's hand firmly, her smile steady, though Richard could see the tension in her jaw. She wasn't just battling the weight of his son's steps. She was battling centuries of stares, whispers, and unspoken rules that told her she was less. And now, in front of everyone, she was being told it again. Richard's heart pounded. Every eye in the room burned into him, waiting for his reaction. Was he going to silence her, drag his son back to the safety of invisibility, protect his wealth and reputation over truth? Or would he stand still and let them all crush the only joy his boy had known in years? Daniel stumbled, his little hand tightening in Maya's. His smile began to falter as he looked up at his father. For the first time, Richard saw it. The fear that even his own father might agree with them. That maybe he too thought his son wasn't enough. The weight of that realization broke Richard. His chest tightened, not from shame, but from anger. Anger at himself, at the crowd, at the lie he had been living. Money had made him powerful, but it had also made him blind. And in that moment, as the whispers grew louder and Maya stood alone against the tide, Richard understood. This wasn't just about a dance. It was about dignity, humanity, and whether he had the courage to choose it. He rose slowly from his chair. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to him. What he did next would change everything. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the music still playing in the background. Richard stepped forward, his eyes locked on Maya and Daniel. Without a word, he placed his hand gently on his son's shoulder and nodded for him to continue. Gasps echoed through the room. Not because Daniel danced, but because his billionaire father had chosen to stand with him and with the woman they tried to shame. For the first time, Richard didn't care about the whispers. He didn't care about the stares, the power, or the reputation he had worked so hard to protect. All that mattered was his son's joy, and the courage of the waitress who had given it to him when the world wanted to take it away. The moment passed, but its impact did not. Richard left that restaurant a changed man, not because his son had taken a dance step, but because a black woman, dismissed by so many, had reminded him of the humanity that money had blinded him to. This wasn't just about a father and son. It was about how racism tries to silence dignity, how prejudice strips people of their humanity, and how even the smallest act of kindness can challenge it. Maya's simple choice, to see Daniel, to lift him up, became a mirror showing us what truly matters and what we so often fail to confront. And now the question lingers. In a world still drowning in prejudice, will we keep turning away? Or will we finally choose to see each other with the same courage Maya did? Because sometimes a single step is enough to change everything,